Hi guys, and welcome to another video. Long time no see. We've been actually trying to get to this one for so long. This is our whole experience with IVF. If you've seen lately through socials, we did get pregnant and we are very happy about that. But there was obviously a lot of hurdles along the way. And do you want to kick it off?
So just in case you're new, I'm Liv and this is Lachy and we live on the Gold Coast. And we got married in 2021 and then we started trying to conceive, that was in April, we started trying to conceive in October that year, but it did not really go as planned. So we will take you through, I think we had a lot go wrong, so if this helps anyone, just sort of take the fear out of it a bit, because I know that was one thing that it's just the unknown. If you don't know anyone that's gone through it, you just don't know what the process is. And I've been asked a lot of times in person, how did it go? What did you do? I know someone who's dealing with it, so we thought we would just run you through our experience. So we started trying to conceive from probably October to February, March, before we decided to look into it a bit further.
Yeah, it was probably about 5 to 6 months, and it all started with myself. We did try it for a couple of months before then, and then obviously we thought we were going to get pregnant. We thought it was going to be easy, and it wasn't. However, back to the story. So I had a low sperm count, so that almost made it pretty tricky from the get-go. It was almost zero. Pretty bad. Not many people come back from that. So we got past that hurdle. I was able to take some medication and increase my testosterone and sperm count.
You just went to your GP for that?
Yeah, just went to my GP at this point. That was all good. And then we're like, okay, cool, we're on.
That took about how many months?
3 months probably.
And it was just constantly getting blood tests and stuff like that?
Constantly getting blood tests, going back in and going back and forth with my GP. And then I was all good. And then we tried for a couple of months and...
Then we still didn't conceive. So we're like, okay, I didn't think I had anything wrong because I'm never sick or have never experienced any... Every time I get a blood
Libby's
test
just straighty 180. You would think...
Everything's fine. So I was like, I might as well just try. Maybe we're just getting the timing wrong or something, but I might as well just get tested because I don't want to have to come back in a month's time and be get tested and then there's something be wrong.
And then at the same time, we also just wanted to test you because I just went through all these tests to optimize my health. And then I was like, I feel really healthy and good because it's on the paper through the bloods, it looked really solid. So then I'm like, we should just get that checked anyway. So then you got checked?
This was about, we had been trying to conceive for a year. So I was like, I know everyone says wait for a year and then get tested. So I was like, all right, I'll go get tested. So I had a blood test to check a whole bunch of things, and an ultrasound to make sure everything was okay. So what came back with that was that I had a thyroid issue, which is underactive.
And autoimmune, yeah. Hashimoto's.
Hashimoto's, which is an underactive thyroid, which can affect all your hormones, so it affects pregnancy.
Everything, yeah.
And then
explains why you were feeling like crap, and then you'd have to run 1,000 calories when you're dieting to get a 1,500 calorie result.
Yeah, so that was a good one to find out. And then I had a low AMH level, I think it's called. I think that's your egg count, so I have a low ovarian reserve. So basically, I'm 29 now. I was 28 then, and I had the egg count of a 45-year-old. So I didn't have many eggs left. So they're we basically want to get on top of this quickly. And then also in my ultrasound, I had one of my ovaries was a lot smaller than the other one. So hence the low egg count. So I hit the real trifecta there.
Yeah.
Had pretty much, me thinking I had nothing wrong, I had about everything wrong. But so we had to first get on top of the thyroid, which took month intervals to make sure my medication was right. So that took, I think, two or 3 months. And then once we fixed that, we were able to then contact an IVF clinic and basically start that process. Since I had the low egg count, I have to freeze eggs because then I run the risk of running out of eggs.
So for anyone that thinks that it's not going to happen for you and you basically give up all hope, don't. because
we both had.
we both had
Struggles.
issues, and like the issues we had, mine were probably more severe, and then yours were horrific timing, because it was like once we beat my stuff, we're like, okay, cool, we're on now. This is sweet, and we definitely weren't.
So we went to my GP, and she basically said, do your research, have a look at some IVF clinics.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, there was not many to choose from.
Yeah,
so,
and
there
everything
was not
has
many
like
reviews on each one.
And if there is reviews, they're not very good either.
And it's not like I knew a whole bunch of people going through IVF that I could contact and be like,
just quickly
go?
on that as well, is straight away, if you want to talk to someone, if you're going through this process, reach out to us, because you don't actually understand until you're in it how much people don't talk about it. And then especially with us being together for plus 10 years, getting together at school, it's like everyone's like, oh, you must be due. Like, when are you going to get pregnant? And you're going through, and you want to talk to people, but you actually know that they're not going to be able to inform you of other things because they just got pregnant. And that's great for them, but there's nothing we can really talk about. So you need to seek out a professional.
I did,
but if you do want to chat, just general conversation, you should reach out to us for sure.
I found one called First Step Fertility. I think now they've changed their name to City Fertility.
Okay, or they're like two as well. I don't know if that's two clinics. Regardless.
Yeah, there might be two, and they're connected. I'm not sure, because we started off with First Step Fertility, which is at Southport, and then later on we ended up they started referring us to City Fertility, but it was the same nurses and doctors and everything, so I assume they've just changed their name, and they were still in Southport, but just a different location, and they were amazing. Like, I couldn't fault them. So we went in and we talked to a nurse first, and she basically goes through your test results, everything like that. And we were really close to fixing my thyroid, but we were just a little bit off, so I had to just wait a little bit. And she said, once you fix that, we'll book you in with the doctor, which then we fixed the thyroid, went to see the doctor. To be fair, that was just really going over things, the same process sort of again. And then once you do that, they send you basically like your whole schedule of like all your medication to get and when you're going to be taking your medication, and then basically see how things go from there. So I had to go on the pill for, I think it was 16 days, just to like re-regulate my cycle. And then I started taking a drug, an injection in my stomach called, there's whales out there.
That wasn't HCG, was it?
No, called, it was like Revel something. But basically that drug makes, so each cycle
stimulates
that
your
a
ovaries,
woman
right?
has, they have one egg. And that's why it's very difficult to get pregnant, because you have one egg, it drops, you've got to get the timing right, everything like that. With IVF, you take a drug so that you produce multiple eggs. Around 8 to 14, they said, was a good amount of eggs. So I start taking a drug to basically make my body produce more eggs. And then halfway through that, I started taking another drug, which basically made my body not ovulate.
So a lot of drugs.
You don't want all these eggs and then them being ovulating and it, like them releasing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I took that. I think the one that made your eggs have more eggs, I think that was for about like nearly a week.
Yeah.
And then the other one was like 5 days.
Yeah.
And then you go in for an ultrasound and make sure that you have everything's doing its job and you're getting all your eggs. And they count how many you have. They count them in follicles because not all follicles have an egg in them. So you get like a rough idea. And that was a scary situation for a minute there, because as I said, I have one of my ovaries is smaller than the other. And when they did the ultrasound first, they went to one side and it had one egg, and I was like, "Oh no!"
Ideally, I think you want like 7 aside. So
yeah,
to give you some sort of perspective, we were 1 from 7 on the first go, and then on the other side, it was almost crazy. It was almost too much.
Then they went to the other side, and I
like
think
10
I
or
had
something, wasn't
like I had 14 total. So yeah, there'd be 13 on
13
the
on
other
one side, 1 on the other side. So
I
think that was basically one of our biggest problems. Is once we got past my hurdle and then we were trying, it was just like one ovary was functioning, so we're functioning at 50% already, and it's already hard enough to get pregnant as it is. Anyway, they made some embryos.
So then they're like, all right, take your other injection. There's a lot of injections, which that's your trigger shot, and that they give you like an exact time to take it, and that basically makes you start ovulating, and they book you straight in to get your egg retrieval, where they get all the follicles and they take my sample, Lachy's sample, puts it together, put it in an incubator, and wait 5 days and see if you got any embryos.
And we did.
And we did.
Which was amazing.
Out of the 14, this is like just for reference, so you get your follicle count, and then out of the 14 follicles, we had 7 eggs. So that's what I mean by not all follicles have eggs in them. And we got 5 embryos out of that.
5 embryos, so 4 are frozen and 1 was utilised, which is a pretty good first run. And then we were...
A fresh embryo apparently is easier to
work with.
The higher chance of getting pregnant with a fresh embryo.
Yeah.
So we went in 5 days later, and they basically put the embryo back in, and then you have to wait 2 weeks to see if you're pregnant, and that is the longest 2 weeks you'll ever go through.
Because if you're not pregnant, then you've got to wait for an extensive amount of time again before you try again, because you've got to like reset the clock again. So I think you got to wait a whole month.
So we went in, got that, and then waited the 2 weeks, and then you get a blood test and make sure that, see if you're pregnant or not. So we got the call. I remember I didn't think I was pregnant the whole time. I was like, no, I'm not. And then the day of the test, I was like, Lachy, I think I'm pregnant. And then, I thought like any blood test takes a few days to get your results. So I went in, got the blood test, and then the lady was like, okay, you'll find out at about 2 p.m. today.
Apologies for the wind. Continue.
And I was like, what? I'm finding out today. And then I was so anxious all day. Mm-hmm. And then we got a call that afternoon from our IVF nurse, who was the most amazing person in the world. And she told us that we were pregnant.
That was the best news ever.
And I booked an Italian restaurant that night because I was so excited.
I ran down to the beach, jumped in the water. We both got what we want. You got food, I got the ocean.
Yeah.
And we haven't looked back since. We're now coming up to 31 weeks, and it went from probably one of the most depressing states we've been in our lives to like now it's just try and find something to get us out of our
It's
our
made
mood.
my pregnancy, I must admit, it's made everything. I don't look at anything negatively. Even when I was sick for about 4 weeks in the beginning, which isn't bad compared to a lot of people, but I was just like, I'll take it. I'll take the sickness. Right now, I'll take the sore back. I'll take the hair loss. I'll take any of it. Like, we're just so excited.
Yeah, I think one of the main reasons we haven't shared too much until now is because it's kind of like our thing and we want to share it with people, but we also don't want to be putting stuff on social media too much for the fact that it hurts when you're not pregnant and you can't get pregnant and everyone keeps posting about getting pregnant. We get it. We understand that people are excited, but it's definitely one of those things that you don't realize how painful it is to others and how many people are going through it until you're on the other end, when all you see on Instagram, especially because I'm on it every single day with work and stuff. You see it every day and everyone thinks, oh, you guys are quite fit, you're young, everything's going right for you, and that wasn't. So I guess attention to detail for other people when you're posting things would go a long way for other people. But otherwise, yeah.
But yeah. Also, going off what Lachy said earlier in the video, it is, while I know like any situation it's better to talk to people, it's definitely, we didn't tell people for a really long time because I just said I don't want people asking me questions about it because I can't handle it. Like, I couldn't handle it myself, let alone have people be like, how are you going? How's everything? Because it's such a long, everything's like delayed. Like everything you have to wait weeks and weeks and weeks for. So now when I look back at it, I'm like, oh, the process was quite quick. But when you're going through it, it feels like forever. And you don't, I remember just being like, I just don't want people to know because I don't want people asking me questions because I'll just break down every 5 seconds.
Yeah, and look, I think that's completely fair. I feel like you don't need to share with everyone, but definitely try and find people like us that can actually talk to you about it and give you some facts rather than just like, I hope you're okay, I hope you're good. Because we know you're not good.
Not that your family and friends are like doing anything wrong by asking. Like, it's a nice thing for them to ask you.
No, but we didn't even tell anyone that was close to us.
It's just hard when no one else you know has gone through it because I'm like, if I tell you, you can't give me anything. Yeah. You can just give me support, but that's by asking me questions and I can't handle the questions.
So, look, we're all good now. We're happy. Life's good. But the main thing of this video is to try and convey our journey, but then also, in essence, help you guys and girls achieve happiness through the process that is IVF. Because honestly, if everything goes correct, it's amazing. If you don't get pregnant on the first go, the second go, we were lucky enough to get pregnant from the get-go.
I really feel for people that don't.
And,
Because it's very emotional.
And you know what though, my biggest advice actually would be to not wait a year if you can't get pregnant. If you can't get pregnant for 3 to 4 months, I would start to seek medical advice straight away and do it for both of you. Don't just do one of you, because we thought, oh, it might be me because my workload and training load is very stressful and I feel like my body's constantly banged up. Whereas you're quite fresh and you feel good. But to be honest, both of you get checked. Make sure everything's good to go. Heck, even if you want to get tested before you even start trying, what's the harm? Do it, because that year waiting,
I think as a female,
is the most,
I know a lot of girls that have
but it's the most
their
old,
AMH levels just tested just to see.
Go get,
to see what they
don't
are.
even worry about the 3 to 4 months. Just go get checked straight away. I don't see how that's bad. One, you're looking after your health anyway, and then 2, you're going to know what you're up against. And if it's all good and it's all dandy, who cares? You continue on. Waiting a year, though, was probably the dumbest thing we ever did. But it's just what we thought was right.
Told is to always wait a year before you before you go and get tested. But
so maybe get some bloods, see your GP if there's any issues. You should be doing this anyway. If you're seeking IVF, you can reach out to us. We're on the Gold Coast, and First Step Fertility was fantastic.
I think there is one in Sydney as well.
There's probably one in Sydney as well.
I can't vouch for them because I don't.
But I think that would be,
really
the company was amazing. And yeah, hopefully this video can shed a little bit of light.
Another thing is, we're from Australia, so I know we're very lucky when it comes to healthcare, our healthcare system. But even then, I've talked to a lot, now that people know that I've gone through IVF, I've talked to a few people, and they know other people that are trying, and they have said that it's really expensive. But we found that the only out-of-pocket costs that we had to pay were some of the medication. Some of it was subsidized, is that the word?
Yeah.
Taken care of. And our surgery day fee for the egg retrieval.
It was more the medication for both of us before we actually went through the IVF process. It was more like what we just told you we needed to get. So
other than that, a lot of it was bulk billed. So when I was like, I'm gonna have to go through IVF, I just thought, this is crazy, because I had watched a influencer on YouTube, and she said it cost, from America, and she said it cost her like $25,000. So in my head, I'm like, here we go. This is going to cost a fortune, but like nowhere near.
Just go with who we were. So.
First Step / City Fertility.
Well, thanks so much for watching. We might release the gender in a couple of weeks. We're just holding on to that little prize of ours for a little bit longer. I thought
everyone knew, but Lockie's like, no.
Look, we haven't actually been secretive about it. So if you went through socials, or you just...
We can maybe show the nursery.
We will show the nursery soon. 9 weeks out, we will touch base a little bit sooner. Thanks so much for watching. Like, subscribe, give it a share, do whatever you like, but let's get some exposure out there for people that need it. Thanks, guys.